Hi everyone, welcome to Silesium Tech. Today we will start with a new series on AutoSAR. In this series, we will cover the most basic concepts till the most advanced concepts. And today's topic is the introduction. AutoSAR is one of the most used buzzwords in the automotive industry.
To understand the background on AutoSAR, we should know the driving factors behind the legacy automotive ECU software development. Prior to AutoSAR, there was not much common standards in the ECU software. Although a particular ECU type from multiple manufacturers had very similar features, this was the case. For example, if we take body control module, the general features of the body control module are controlling the doors, windows, headlights, etc. Irrespective of who produces the body control module, this features will be there. There could be some differences. The difference could be due to the vehicle model, electrical and electronic components. But if you look at a higher level, irrespective of the differences, the overall features will be similar. We could compare this to our mobile phone industry a few years back. Multiple mobile phone manufacturers had different kind of headphone jacks. So if you take a Samsung phone, you cannot use a headphone from Nokia and vice versa. So this was the case for quite a long time. After that, we had the 3.5 mm jack, which was very common. And after that, we were able to use the same headphone for any mobile phone model, irrespective of the manufacturer. So this had numerous advantages for the user because we need not buy a different headphone for each mobile phone we have, and we can borrow from somebody. So it has a lot of cost advantage, and it also has some convenience. Such a scenario was not possible in the ECU software development prior to AutoSAR. We ended up in this scenario for multiple reasons. The first thing is automotive systems are very hard real-time systems. The precision has to be in microseconds and in some cases less than that. Also, they have to endure very harsh environment like the temperature. It should run in very cold conditions, very hot conditions. It should withstand the pressure and electromagnetic interferences as well. To be really quick, the software developers used strategies like monolithic architecture, where the application, the OS kernel, and the drivers were mixed together. So there will be a single software unit which will perform everything. This gave the software the speed. Along with that, some other strategies were also used, like compiler dependent code, inline assembly code. So all of this made the software non-modular, not scalable, and not reusable. Let's take another example. Let's say you have a HP PC with Linux pre-installed, but you don't like it and you want to get Windows instead and probably install iTunes or Chrome or any other software. So these softwares are from the competitors with each other, but you could do that. You could just purchase the software, you could install it, and you can get rid of the old software and use it as you like. But a similar thing is not possible. Let's say a OEM, for example, a BMW, if they want to buy a hardware from one manufacturer and one part of software from one supplier and another part of software from another company, this was not possible. This created a lot of worry to the car manufacturers. So in 2003, some car manufacturers and suppliers got together and thought to put an end to it. They formed the AUTOSAR Consortium, and between 2004 to 6, the first AUTOSAR standard was released. What exactly is AUTOSAR? AUTOSAR stands for Automotive Open System Architecture. AUTOSAR defines some standards and guidelines. What exactly are those standards and guidelines? So, the standards and guidelines are majorly in four different areas. One is the architecture, which is the main part, and the next one is the methodology, software development methodology, and then some guidelines on application interfaces and acceptance tests. To solve the challenges which we discussed earlier, the following goals were introduced for AutoSAR: to create an open architecture which multiple software vendors, electrical and electronic component vendors can use. So if we take, for example, the PC, PC has multiple ports. For example, we could take the USB port. USB port is an open standard which everyone can use. The PC manufacturers can create the USB ports based on the USB standard, and the vendors can create USB cables. Even we as an end user can create USB cables based on the specification. So creating such a specification will facilitate multiple software vendors and hardware, electrical and electronic component vendors to create subsystems that can be reused. And it should provide flexibility to integrate software functions. It should facilitate commercial off-the-shelf software and hardware components, meaning the software and hardware components should not be custom made for a particular vehicle, rather they should be readily available as packages, and the OEM should be able to purchase it and assemble it directly. In order to achieve these goals, the following set of features are needed from AutoSAR. So AutoSAR has a standard and openly disclosed interfaces. As discussed earlier with the USB example, we need standard and openly disclosed interfaces for multiple people to develop software and hardware according to a common standard. Hardware independent software layer. So this is very important because the hardware and software should be able to be developed separately. To put together software from multiple vendors, a standard basic software is of utmost importance. The image shows the different layers of AutoSAR members. The central 9 core partners founded the AutoSAR consortium, and they are responsible for defining the strategy and vision of AutoSAR. The premium members develop AutoSAR standards along with the core partners, and the associate members make use of the AutoSAR standards for commercial purposes. This picture provides an overview of the AutoSAR architecture. There is more detailed versions available, but for introduction, this is sufficient. At the lowest level, we have the microcontroller, and this is the hardware. And on top of microcontroller is the microcontroller abstraction layer or the MCAN layer. MCAN layer is the lowest software layer, and it contains drivers for the microcontroller. And it also provides a layer of abstraction above, meaning the above layers are independent of microcontroller because of the MCAN layer. Above the MCAN layer, we have the ECU abstraction layer. ECU abstraction layer has two functions. One is to have drivers for the external devices. For example, in the ECU, we have a CAN controller externally, then the ECU abstraction layer will have the external CAN controller driver. And the other function is to provide a layer of abstraction between the MCAN and the upper layers. So this is helpful. For example, if we want to change the microcontroller for the project, we just need to remove the microcontroller and put the new microcontroller in the hardware, and also remove the MCAN layer and put the new MCAN layer, and change some configurations in the ECU abstraction layer, and then everything is good to go. So it's a minimal effort. Above the ECU abstraction layer, you have the services layer. Services layer offers services such as operating system services, networking services, memory services, diagnostic services, and ECU management services. The services layer is independent of the microcontroller and the MCAN layer as well. So here we have the RT layer in between the basic software and the application. RT provides the communication between the application software components and between the application software components and the basic software. We also have complex drivers here. Complex drivers are those drivers which cannot be created in a layered architecture like here. Here we have some information which we have already seen, so I will just run through it. Okay. Software components are architectural elements which are connected to each other via VFB. VFB is the virtual function bus. We will talk about it in the later part of the series. So to put it simply, a software component is a software module. It could be a source code file, a single file, or a set of files which does some function, and it also has some interfaces with which it can interact with other software modules or software components. So the interfaces are the ports, and the modules are software components. There are multiple software component types. Application software component, as the name suggests, does some application function. Sensor actuator software component does some sensor actuator data handling. Parameter software component handles the software parameters, so the parameters which is used to configure the ECU software. Composition software component, service proxy, service, ECU abstraction, complex drivers, and the other stuff we will discuss in detail later. A port belongs to only one software component, and it is the interaction point between the software components. So the interaction between the ports are made using connectors, and a connector connection is typically done between a receive port and a provide port. As we discussed earlier, port can be either data or function. We will discuss in detail about the ports in the upcoming videos. A runnable is an entity which can be executed and scheduled independent of other runnable entities. To explain it simply, it could be compared to the functions in C, but this has some qualities like it should be able to be scheduled and it should run independent of the other functions. A runnable entity should contain at least 2 points, one entry and one exit point. With that, we will close the introduction part. If you want to read more about AutoCell, you can visit my blog here. I will put the link in the description.